So we talk about work, yeah? And one very commonly used concept in HR related to work is employee survey. Okay, so today we talk about employee survey, Mitarbeiterbefragung. You will find this really in most bigger companies, all around the world. And what I want to share with you is, how does that work? Why do companies do this? But as you know, I also want to share with you why things not always work as they are supposed to. And I will show you some alternatives to traditional approach. So at the end, you should have a real understanding about what is employee survey, how does it work, why does it not work, how could it work. Okay, you will experience this, definitely. Probably some of you already have experienced employee surveys when you have worked somewhere. Okay, now let's look at the architecture behind. Yeah, what is the engine, so to speak? And here on this picture you find an overview of the fundamental idea behind employee survey. In earlier days, we named this survey feedback. Survey feedback, it's a concept which is really old. Yeah, it was invented as part of another concept, organization development. I will not talk too much about organization development. Just take one thing with you. Organization development is about involving people actively, constantly in changing, developing the organization. Okay? And survey feedback as such is one major concept as part of organization development. Okay? And the idea is simple. I do a survey asking people things. Yeah? Are you satisfied with your work? Are you satisfied with the way we communicate? Are you satisfied with your immediate supervisor? It's very much about satisfaction, right? It was the initial idea that the more people are satisfied with their job and with their work environment, the more productive they are, which in fact is not always true. Yeah? I mean, you know this quote? Every revolution has started with somebody who was totally pissed. So sometimes things change because the people are really unsatisfied. But that was the fundamental idea. Let's have happy people. Happy people do good work. If you want to have satisfied customers, you have to have satisfied employees. Happy employees. So you ask things, how do you think about this? How do you think about that? And then, of course, whenever we do a survey, we do an analysis, yeah, statistics, and we feed the results back to the people. Okay? Imagine you are a department and I'm your supervisor. In this moment, I would show you the results. I would say, look, this is what you have said. And obviously there are some issues. Now let's talk about how we can solve these. Right? So and the question how to solve this is related to action planning, which hopefully will lead to implementation. Now we come to some solutions, some ideas how we can improve our working environment, the way we communicate, how we can improve our processes and all these things. And once we have planned these actions, we implement these actions, of course. So, 1 year later, we start again, or 2 years later. So, this is a cycle. And the fundamental idea is that when we do this regularly, again and again and again, we propel ourselves in a better situation. Okay? That's the fundamental idea. And again, one fundamental idea is this involving the people. It's not that only the directors, the executive board decides, okay, we have to improve this or this. No, the people are involved. That's the fundamental idea. Okay? when we look into practice, how this really works, then, I mean, this is a similar picture, just a little bit more operational, so to speak. It's a kind of project plan. And what I want you to see is that there are three major phases whenever we do Mitarbeiterbefragung, employee survey. There is the phase before the survey and after the survey. The phase after the survey we typically name follow-up. Okay, and there is the survey as such. Okay, project planning and setup. I mean, that's always true for every project. Many companies do a pre-study before they develop the questionnaire, before they start doing the actual, the survey as such. They talk to some people, what are topics which we should consider, yeah? And then we develop the survey as such, the questionnaire. Okay, I'm going to talk about this in a minute. And then we communicate to the people, telling, hello employees, now here is the employee survey, please take part, yeah? Your opinion matters, yeah? So it's kind of internal communication, internal marketing, engaging the people, mobilize the people to really participate in that thing. Okay, and then the survey takes place. Employees get an email with a link to an online questionnaire, or in some companies you get a paper pencil questionnaire. Okay, and you have a couple of days or a week or two time to really respond to the questionnaire. And then the follow-up phase starts. In the follow-up, as I said, the results will be fed back to the people. Stepwise, I'm going to talk about this, how that works. They plan the action, implement the action, and at the end, and this is also true for every project, if it's done right, we have an evaluation. What went well, what did not went well, what should we do better in the future. Okay, so I want to pick out some boxes. I want to talk about the survey development, yeah? And I would like to talk about how to interpret results. I would like to talk about the follow-up. These are the three things which are really critical around employee surveys. So, how do we develop a questionnaire? I mean, some of you will do a thesis, bachelor thesis, or you work in some projects, yeah? And you do a survey. How do we develop a questionnaire? I tell you how you do it. You sit down alone or in a group of 2 or 3. You open Word, Microsoft Word maybe, and then you ask yourself, okay, let's write down some questions. Let's ask this, let's ask this, blah, 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 blah. No, that's wrong. It's the same with writing a term paper or an academic paper or a thesis. How do you write a term paper? I tell you how you write a term paper. There is one afternoon in a week. You say, okay, this is the perfect afternoon to write the term paper. It's 2 o'clock. You sit at your desk, open Word. The headline, okay, already done. Perfect, looks great. Then you start. Okay, what do I write? Oh no, I delete. Again, you start again. Oh, I think I should clean my room. Okay, you clean your room. You have to do it anyhow, so why not do it now? Okay, 30 minutes later, for the man in the room, 1 hour later, you start again. What should I write? I don't know. Okay, go to the balcony, smoke a cigarette, have a coffee, go back. And then it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And they say, okay, let's try it again next week. Don't try to write anything before you don't know what to write. Yeah? Writing starts with thinking. if you don't have your term paper, your thesis in your mind, yeah, already prepared, you cannot write. Okay? First you have to understand what to write. And then writing is a piece of cake. The same is with questionnaire. So the first step always is to define the topic. Yeah? What is the survey all about? Is it about the jobs? Is it about the supervisor? Is it about communication? Is it about career opportunities? Is it about work-life balance? What is the survey all about? We define the scope as clear as possible, right? Once you have defined the field in which you want to ask questions, the next step is to think, okay, I want to ask things around work-life balance. So, what is work-life balance? And what are the 2-3 indicators that relate to this particular topic? I still haven't written any question. Okay? I just have defined what I want to know. Okay, I want to ask things around the job. Okay, what is relevant related to the job? Okay. Do I like it? Can I use my competencies? Is it interesting? Can I learn? Do I feel that what I do is meaningful? No. Okay. And then I write the questions. And I want you to take home one thing. Whenever you prepare questions in an employee survey or as part of your thesis or as part of any kind of project, you must know one thing. People will not understand your questions. Yes. You know the WHO, World Health Organization? They had a questionnaire, and there was a question. Did you have pain in your abdomen, Bauch, in the last 4 weeks? What is abdomen? What is Bauch? Do you know this? Yes, of course, we all know what abdomen is, sorry. Okay, be careful. There were some researchers who did a test. They asked the people, look, this is a picture of a person. Please indicate what is abdomen. You know what? People worldwide have a totally different understanding about what abdomen is. Even though this is probably one of the most simple terms in the world. If you ask people about innovation, communication, profitability, business strategy, the people will not understand it. You will understand it because you're a business student, but the normal people outside there. My professor, my doctoral father, told me, and I will never forget this, because I dealt a lot with employee surveys. You know, the people do not understand the questions because they are dumb, but because they are normal. Yeah? Okay? So we have to be very, very careful with the questions we ask in surveys. So that's the reason why we do pre-tests. Okay? That's why we do pre-tests. Let's have a pre-test. You know, at the end of this course, we have a course evaluation, and we hand out a survey, a questionnaire, where you have to evaluate this course. And there is a question: does the learning environment support the achievement of your learning objectives? Again, does the learning environment in this course support the achievement of your learning objective? Now let's have a pre-test. What is learning environment? Just your initial thought.
I think for every person is different. For me personally, would be the ability to have my time to prepare.
Yeah. Do you have your time to prepare? Right. What is learning? What is learning environment?
Like the room,
The room. Yes. What else?
students, professor.
Student,
everybody
professor.
involved.
We are all part of the learning environment. The library, is it part of the learning environment? I see difference. In a pre-test, we simply talk to the people. What is this, what I ask you? What is this? Please paraphrase it. What does it mean? Please repeat the question in your own words. Or we ask, what comes to your mind when you think about this particular question? When you do this little exercise, as we did it, you immediately understand how people understand the question. And probably you will learn that you have to adjust the question as such. Okay. This is meant by a pretest. This is really key. Whenever you do a survey, whenever you use a questionnaire, you have to do a pre-test. Okay? Then we use the questionnaire, of course, and based on the data which we get, we can evaluate the questionnaire. I don't want to talk about this. Okay? Here is probably the most often used questionnaire around employee surveys. This is the Q12 from an institute called Gallup. I know what is expected of me at work. I have the materials and equipment. I need to do my work right. At work, my opinions seem to count. I have a best friend at work. The idea behind this survey is that by using these 12 questions, you have a very reliable, valid indication of the employee's engagement, whatever that is. Okay, I show you these questions first, that you can see some real questions. But we get back to these questions, and we're going to talk about whether questions like this really make sense. Okay. What to do with the results, and who should work with the results if you get the results on, let's say, I have a best friend at work. Okay, that's crucial. We're going to talk about this. Okay. Okay, we do the questionnaire, we do the survey, ask the people, get the response, and then we do some simple statistical analysis. And what you see here is a very typical way how to present results. I mean, that's really, really commonly used. I have here the question, I have the materials and equipment, I need to do my work right. And I have two departments here. One is Sales Germany and Global Sales Organization. As you can imagine, the Sales Germany is part of the Global Sales Organization. Okay, so Global Sales Organization is just the next hierarchical level. Okay, so you compare one department, Sales Germany, with the superior unit. Okay, which is probably bigger. And then you see N. This is the amount of people who responded to the question, the average, and then simply the frequencies, the relative frequencies in percentage. And then a very commonly used method is to sum up the two positive answers, the two positive options, and the two negative options. And they are then displayed here in the bar chart. Yeah, the red one, 35, is the sum of 12 and 23. So it's a very good way to see both the overall tendency but also the distribution. Right? And you can easily compare to another department. Okay, just as one point. It's simple. Now, this is also a typical result. Yeah? And I want you to, for a moment, take over the view of a manager. Okay? You are all managers. And think of you are the manager of Region Southwest. Okay? In your team, you have 32 employees. And your region, your team is part of the overall German team, which is made up by 186 employees. Okay, your results are indicated by the red bars. Germany, the superior unit, is indicated by the gray bars. What you also need to know is the bigger the bar, the more negative it is. Okay, 1 is the most positive possible answer, and 5 the negative end of the continuum. Okay, now you get this question. What would you think? What is your biggest issue? I mean, these are real data. What is your biggest issue? Please.
Compensation?
Of course, compensation. Why? Because 3.1, this is the most negative result which you do. 3.1.
The work environment or the career development.
Yeah, but work environment is 2, which is one of
them.
them.
Much worse than your peers.
Okay, what you did is you compared your results with your peers, with the result of your peers, right? So you had a look at the difference between Region Southwest in Germany, and then you found that with work environment and career development, you have the biggest delta, the biggest difference. Also makes sense, huh?
Could it be that the compensation is maybe also a bit over-emotionalized? If they're, for example, unhappy with work, that they then just cross-compensation as the worst thing, although they don't really see it as bad?
I tell you what, whenever you do a survey like this, from an absolute standpoint, when you look at the absolute results, you will always find that the absolute results are quite negative with compensation, communication, leadership, and career opportunities. This is always the case. If you are an employee and you are asked, how satisfied are you with your salary? What will you say? Will you say, I'm totally excited about my salary? You would never do this. Even the executive board would say, especially our salespeople who have a significant amount of variable pay should never be satisfied with your salary. Okay. You always get results in the middle. Always. Always, always. The same with communication. I ask you, if I have to ask you as students, are you satisfied with the way we communicate to you as a faculty? I mean, how can you tell whether you are well informed? I don't know whether I'm well informed. If I would be really well informed, I would maybe know that I'm not well informed. But since I do not know whether I'm really well informed, I cannot tell whether I'm well informed. So I don't know. You can never tell whether you are well informed. It's stupid. So something in the middle, partly. Hey, you always get this result. So comparing results is probably the better alternative than looking at the results from an absolute perspective. Yeah.
Also, if you're a manager and maybe you're evaluated by your performance compared to your peers,
Yeah.
you would be interested in comparing that also.
Sure. I mean, this is really interesting. See, where are you in comparison to others? I mean, that really counts. I mean, again, here with colleagues, results about colleagues are always positive. Yeah, it's always. Now, here are the 4 ways how to interpret results. I tell you this because, I mean, we believe, as well-educated people, that, I mean, we know how to read statistics. Or, sorry, no, we don't. there are really different ways how to interpret results. We must be really careful. Really. In practice, I see that many companies really do mistakes here. They have the best survey in the world, the people are encouraged, but they use the results in the wrong way. And then that leads to wrong conclusions. I mean, that's really an issue. So I want you to take home how to deal with those results. Yeah. What I will not mention later on is even when we do a global employee survey and we compare the results of different countries, we must be very, very careful. I mean, I learned this from an own study which I did, a big study, global. I compared a couple of globally conducted surveys, and I learned, independent from the content, that there is a bias. That in some countries, people tend to respond rather positive. In some other countries, the people tend to respond rather negative. Yeah? My result was that in Latin America, the people respond in a very positive way. Yeah? Yeah, satisfied. Wow. Yeah, where in France, people are rather negative. In some Asian countries, you have a lower distribution. People do not tend to select the extreme ends of a scale. Yeah. We have these cultural differences, and also this must be taken into consideration when we look at the results, at least when we start to compare results across different countries. Okay, let's get back to how to interpret results. One alternative is to look at the results from an absolutely. Yeah. So you just look at what is the average. Yeah. And as we saw in the example before, if we take this strategy, compensation would be the biggest issue. When we take the second approach, which you brought up, and we interpret the results in a relative way, we compare our results with a superior unit. Then work environment and career opportunity would be the biggest issue. There are two more alternatives. One is, if you do the employee survey again and again, of course you can compare your current results with the results from the last time. I mean, that makes sense. To really see how results changed. Did I get better? Did I get worse? Yeah, that makes sense. But probably the best way to deal with results is to compare the results with your target, with your objective. I'll give you an example. Think about if you would ask your spouse, do you love me? And the response can be from a scale, yes, mainly yes, partly, mainly no, no. Do you love me? And your spouse responds with, mainly yes. As a well-educated business student, you will look at a benchmark, which you can download somewhere probably. And you find that on average, people respond somewhere between mainly yes and partly. Okay? Then you are happy. So I'm better than the benchmark. Ooh. Yeah. Now you know what I mean. If you love your spouse and you ask your spouse, do you love me? The only acceptable response is spontaneous and loud and clear, yes. Yeah. Imagine a company that has the growth strategy. It's all about growth. Yeah? Global growth, revenue increase is the ultimate objective of this company. And because this is the case, sales is very important. Okay? Now, you ask your salespeople, hey, salespeople, would you buy our products if you would not work here? And again, Sales is my key function, the most important function in our company. And the only way to achieve my strategic objective is having a very strong, highly committed sales workforce. If I ask this question, would you buy our products even if you would not work here? What would be an acceptable result? How many people should say yes? First, would you care about benchmarks? No, not at all. You would have a target. And that's how I deal with surveys. I ask the executive board, before we ask this question, what is an acceptable result in your eyes? And then we compare what you want to achieve with what we actually get. I don't know what the right amount is. It depends on the executive board. Is it 90%? Is it 95%? It's definitely not 60%. Yeah? I know a company like Audi. Audi has 4 strategic priorities. And one of these 4 strategic priorities is we want to become the most attractive employer in the automotive industry globally. This is a strategic priority. It's not the priority of the HR director. And it's not a nice to have. This is 1 out of 4 strategic goals written down. Yeah? And now they ask the question, would you recommend a friend to work here? With this strategy in mind, what is the acceptable result? I mean, that's the point, okay? So, what you take home is you have different alternatives to deal with results, but probably the best way to deal with results as part of employee survey is to have a target and then to compare your results with what you want to achieve. Okay? That makes sense. Now, the third point, which is absolutely crucial here, the follow-up. Some say the follow-up in an employee survey is the most important part. Yeah? I mean, that's reasonable. Saying, okay, questionnaire, done, it's fine, we got the results. But what really matters is what we do with the results and how we really find the right ways to the right action so that in the future we get better results. I mean, that makes sense. Let's talk about the follow-up real quick. How does that look like? I mean, sorry for the packed slide. Let's walk through it real quick. There is one rule in most companies saying that when we do an employee survey, we will feedback the results, even if the results are negative. I mean, that's for many, many companies, rule number 1. All employees get their results. That's important. I mean, think about it. You are an employee in a company, you have participated in a survey, and you never hear something about it again. You lose trust. You lose trust in this. And 2 years later, next survey, you say, okay, I haven't heard anything about the last survey, so why should I respond? I mean, that's clear, okay? The feedback of the results typically follow a top-down approach. Yeah? In the first step, the executive board get the results about the company overall. And then in the next step, the direct reports of the executive board get their results, and then the department heads, top down. That's a very typical approach. Yeah, top down. It's clear. What I want you to see is that in an employee survey, it's not that only the executive board get their results with one single report. It's rather this way, that every team, every department get their own report, as I have shown you in the previous example. I mean, when a company like Bosch does a global employee survey, you can imagine that at the end you have a couple of thousands reports. Because every team get their report, every department, every division. Yeah? That's a huge amount of reports. Yeah? It's also challenging from a technical viewpoint. really, to generate all these hundreds, thousands of reports, and to ensure that every department get their report with their results in time. Okay? So it's huge. It's really huge. Then the typical approach that all teams, all departments are encouraged to work with their results. Okay? If we are a department, if a large-scale company, we would get our own report and we would be encouraged to work with our results, to come up with clear actions. Okay? Sometimes there are issues which we cannot solve. If we conclude that we need to adjust the pay structure, we are not in a position to change it. So we would feed this back to the right level or to the right instance. So it's more complicated as you would think initially. Okay, that's really huge. Yeah, a lot of things happen here. Now that's the story. Okay, and so far I think you got a little bit understanding of how employee surveys work. And really, you will find this way in many, many organizations. You know that I'm always critical about these things. I wrote 2 books about employee surveys, about the traditional approach. Today I would write the books in totally different ways. Today I criticize this approach more or less. Yeah, and I would like to share with you some insights, also some personal learnings. On one single slide I have some shortcomings, and we will stick to this for some minutes. I really want you to see the issues, the shortcomings around employee surveys. Point number 1 is simple, and you will experience this. You are an employee in a company, and 23 months, nothing happens. And suddenly, in month 24, there is this employee survey. Okay, and then the next 23 months come. Employee surveys typically are isolated events. They pop up, disappear, pop up, disappear. Yeah, it's this typical HR thing, you know. HR again. This survey. Okay, let's do it. Let's have the workshop done. Okay, let's get back to daily work. And then 2 years later, the survey again. That's a very typical experience. Surveys, employee surveys, as very isolated events, which are not really integrated into daily decision making. Okay. Point number 2, and for this I would like to get back to our survey, to our Gallup survey. Imagine, again, we are a department, and we all have answered these questions. And now the result is that we are really bad, whatever that means, really bad with regards to question number 10. I have a best friend at work. Many of us don't have a best friend at work. So, what to do? Sorry, stupid. I have the materials and equipment I need to do my work right. I'm in a sales position. I should have an iPad. I should have internet connection at home paid by the company. I should have a real cell phone, a smartphone maybe, and not this old block kind of. If we as a group learn that here is an issue, can we change this? Maybe, maybe not. If we come to the conclusion that we all are not satisfied with our results, with our salary, sorry, can we change this? No. So, a very typical experience in many employee surveys is that we cannot change it. And we should not change it. I mean, should we change it that you have best friends at work? Sorry, the company is not there to define whether you have friends or not. That's really your thing, right? So many things are not really relevant to everybody, and for some things, I mean, the company is not responsible for. Okay? Now let's come to the third point, and this to me is the most important point. I really want you to understand this. Okay? Very simple idea. And to explain the third point, I have this picture here. The old approach, the traditional approach is, as I said, you do a survey, get the results, and then coming from there, you look at where do we have the potential to get better? Right? Where do we have potential for improvement? Okay. And then we set our targets. So, okay, we learned that we become better in communication. And of course, we have potential there. We can get better here. Let's do something. And then we set objectives. Okay, in the future, we will have more meetings. We will have a closer interaction. We will have more reports. I don't know. Okay? Survey, potential, target. We set the target after we get the results. What's wrong with that? I tell you what's wrong with that. When you come to my age, or if you will become a manager, you will have to go to the doctor, to the physician, probably every year. You have to get a health check. You go there. Health check again. Okay. Blood test, different tests which measure your physical capabilities, your strength, and you get the feedback. And for some of you, it's always the same story. Dr. Trost. Okay. You should lose weight. You should have more movement, more action, do more sports. You should drink less, stop smoking, eat less meat. And I leave and say, yeah, he's right. I have potential. Okay. From now on, now I set my target. From now on, I will run 3 times a week in the morning, at least half an hour. I will lose weight. In half year, 5 kilos. I mean, that's reasonable. I will smoke my first cigarette at 6 o'clock in the evening. And I have 3 days in a week where I don't drink alcohol. When I drink alcohol, not more than 6 beers. 4 beers. Okay. First day, I run. I feel good. Smoke my first cigarette at 6. Don't drink alcohol. Second day, I don't run. First cigarette at 5. Okay. Third day, you know what happens. Fourth day, after 2 weeks, motivation is gone. I fall back to my old behavioral pattern. That's always true. You know why? Because the pure result, the pure feedback from the doctor is far from being enough to motivate, to change my life. I just have a short-term sense of urgency. If I get a heart attack, things change. But as long as I don't get a heart attack or something like this, just because the physician told me, the doctor told me that I changed my life, I don't change my life. Nobody changed life just because the doctor says to you. People hardly change. So that's a very typical experience. Second story. As an executive board of a company, as the executive board, the top level, I feel that we have a major issue with regards to our quality. We have a quality issue. Let's just take this example. I can take any other example. Quality. If we don't change the level of quality in our processes and in our products, we will not be there in 10 years. Yeah? This is a typical situation in which Jack Welch, General Electric was. He really realized that quality is one of the biggest issues in the company. Quality, quality, quality. So we really have to focus on quality. We have a huge potential to get better in quality. So we realize the potential first. And then we set a target. Say, we want to become a company where each and every employee realizes that quality is the most important thing to this company. If we ask the people in the future, what is most important in this company? We want to get a response from the brain and from the heart that quality is number one. And in every minute of my work, I think about quality. And I learned that we do not accept any level of tolerance when it comes to quality. We want that this type of thinking will be really part of it must be so clear to everybody. And now we do a survey. And we ask the people, do you believe that quality is key for the future success of the company? And now we get the results. 70% of the people say yes. How will the executive board respond? It's not enough. They will start not to sleep at night. Suddenly, these results really matter. They become relevant. They become hot. Will the executive board change something because of this result? Yes, definitely. It's like in private life. Now let's get back to the physician. I made a bet with my friend, and I have one ultimate objective in my life. I want to climb the Kilimanjaro. That's so important to me. That's my vision. And I have a sabbatical, half year. It's already all arranged. I will climb the Kilimanjaro. I know that's not so easy. In my current shape, I probably would not make it. So I go to the physician and say, please check my health, because I want to climb the Kilimanjaro. And he tells me the same story. He tells me, if you want to climb the Kilimanjaro, you should train a little bit. Some exercise. You should eat less meat, reduce smoking, reduce drinking, have more sleep. If I hear this feedback knowing that I want to achieve something, then this really matters. So my story here is, I want you to take home for the rest of your career that there is a huge difference between whether results in a survey are just interesting or whether they are relevant to those who really make the decisions in the company. Okay? That's why I said with the third point on this slide, the shortcoming of traditional employees is that objectives are defined after the survey has been conducted based on the survey results. Yeah? And what we realize here, and this is a rule which you take home. We learn from practice from the last decades that things which are not important before the questionnaire, before the survey, will not be important after the survey, independent from any result. Things which are not important before the survey will not be important after the survey. That's a really fundamental rule. Now, imagine the survey result leads to the understanding that we have to improve our communication. Do we have the required budget automatically? No. In most cases, you don't have the budget. Yeah? It wasn't planned. Yeah? The last point, we used to compare the results with the benchmark. Benchmark, the superior unit, or these external numbers which we get. How do other companies typically respond to this or that question, and we can compare ourselves to the others. That's a commonly used approach. If we do this, we compare ourselves with average. Is average good enough? Depends. Yeah, okay. So these are the major shortcomings which I want you to see. A key shortcoming of any kind of survey which we do in companies, whether it's an employee survey or a management appraisal, 360-degree feedback. The key issue very often is that it's not clear why we do this for whom. So, this slide seems kind of packed, but the only thing which I want you to understand on this picture is the top line. Yeah, there is related to every instrument to which I come later. For every instrument, the question is, who will participate? What will we ask? Why do we ask these things? And for whom do we do this? Who is the customer of this survey? Yeah? To you students, yeah, this sounds clear. Of course, for everything we do, we have to clarify, why do we do this? Clear. For whom? What do we do? So. In practice, this is not always as clear. When we think about the traditional employee survey, as we have discussed in the last minutes, for whom do we do with that thing? For the executive board? For the employees? For the teams? For the department? Huh? It's not that clear. Okay? Let's have a look at some instrument. I mean, we spoke about the first level. That is about all employees should take part. We ask all things about job satisfaction typically. Why do we do this? We do it to improve things, to involve the people. And for whom do we do that? For everybody. Yeah? For everybody. For everyone. Executive board, department heads, teams, the employees. We also find surveys which are much more focused. We have a specific topic. Let's say the executive board thinks about having a kind of health management. Let's think about health management. Okay, let's do a little survey. Yeah, ask some people, what do you think? What are your ideas? Blah, blah, blah. You can do surveys about everything. Just one time, just to get the opinion of the people. This is meant by theme-oriented employee surveys. Selected employees are asked about selected topics, and it's about finding the status, monitoring things, just getting a feedback, and typically the client, the customer for such a survey is management. About pulse survey, pulse checks, we will talk in a minute. That's a very important concept. Yeah. But let's look at 360-degree feedback. You remember what that is? Let's say you are a high potential, a team lead. Yeah? Then 360-degree feedback would mean that you get a feedback from very different angles. Right? 360-degree feedback, that is, you as a high potential, you get a feedback from your team, yeah, from your peers, from your supervisor, from your internal customers, those that benefit from your work. Okay, so that's the idea of 360-degree feedback. Getting a feedback from all different perspectives so that you get a complete feedback reliable, objective, and so on. Question. Who is the customer of 360-degree feedback? It's written on the slide. You have two options. Is it you as the high potential, or is it management? What's the difference? Let's say we would do this in this room. Yeah, we pick out 2 or 3 students, and they get a feedback from me, from you, from others. And then we have a report at the end. Who should get the report? The student or the faculty? The student. Why?
It's more important to know my potential and to work on that.
If you get the report, then it's to get the feedback and you work with it. Yeah? If the faculty gets the feedback, it would be scary. Huh?
Yes.
Maybe they take this report and use it as a basis for your future appraisal. So, if you understand one example on this picture, I want you to understand the 360-degree feedback example. It's a total difference whether you do a 360-degree feedback for the manager, the high potential. Let's add this here, or whether you do it for the management, for the management in HR. Okay, it's a total difference. Do you deliver the report to the HR department, to the executives, or do you deliver the result to the manager, who is the focus person of this 360-degree feedback? It's a total difference. Yeah, in one case, it's about development. Yeah, with me as the person who was evaluated, if I get the report, I can use it for my own development. If the report is delivered to HR or to the executive board, that could be an instrument to select the right managers in the future, and that's a totally different story. Okay, so what you take home is, for every survey, it must be clear, why do we ask whom for whom? Yeah, that's absolutely important, and I name this positioning of different instruments. In HR, we're not always that clear. Okay, so that leads me to one instrument which I want to highlight a little bit, the pulse survey. We already got 2 examples, the Audi example and the quality example. What is a pulse survey? I have shown on this slide the difference between the traditional approach, which I have explained, and a pulse survey. We sometimes say pulse survey, and sometimes we say pulse check. It's the same. The idea of a pulse survey is very simple. The idea is that it's not about satisfaction. It's not about whether people are happy with their work, whether they are happy with their careers, whether they are happy with it. It's not about this whole range of things people can be satisfied with. It's not about this. Pulse surveys are only about things that really matter to whom? To the executive board. Okay. Whenever I do a pulse survey with companies, my first question to the executive board is, why can't you sleep at night? Well, you know how executives respond on this question? Hey, sorry, I can't sleep at night. No, really, you can't sleep at night sometimes. When you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, when the demons come, and you are scared about this entire corporation which you have to lead. Hey, sorry, that's a huge responsibility. What scares you? And they are scary. Yeah, really. They are scary. They are scared. Really. why can't you sleep at night? And then when they are honest, I stick to this because they say, well, I can't sleep at night because we don't have the required quality mindset in our company. The people still have not understood that quality is absolutely key. Or we just have done this merger. Yeah, we have acquired another company and we are still in the process where these two companies are growing together. And what really scares me is that we still have these two companies. We have the Aussies and the Wessies. We are still in the process where we grow together. And unless we don't make it to become one company, we will not succeed. I'm scary about this. Or, in the executive board, we have decided that we have to change our product strategy. We will stop producing, we will reduce our production of sports utility vehicles, SUVs, the climate killers. Yeah. And we will invest much more in e-vehicles, because this is the future. We will go for this, but we still feel that the people do not follow. I mean, the employees, they love their SUVs, and so we still have to do a lot of work so that people understand that it's important for the company to change this product strategy. So these are all strategic challenges. And when we do a survey, it's not about, as I said, it's not about asking, are you satisfied with your work? It's about, are you convinced that quality is the most important thing in this company? Do you really believe that the focus on e-vehicles will be the key of the company's future success? Yeah? Are you absolutely convinced that we as a whole company have to grow together so that we can compete in the future? Yeah? We will ask questions like this. Yeah? Questions which are closely related to the challenges of the company, to the ideas of the executive board. Okay, and that really relates to this picture. Yeah, it's as a company, as an executive board, I see potential. I set my target, and then I design my survey accordingly. So, on top of this slide, you find the traditional survey. On the bottom half of the slide, you find the fundamental idea of a pulse survey. Okay? And once you do this, yeah, and as I've indicated here, you can do this really every month. Not every 2 years or every 5 years, but every month. I know companies which do pulse survey every single month. Not asking all the employees, because it's not about involvement, but selected employees, a random sample maybe. It's just that the management get a regular monthly feedback on how the people think about strategic challenges. Okay? Now imagine, I, as a CEO, I can't sleep at night because I feel that the people still have not understood that quality is key. Every month I ask the people, do you believe in quality? And I get a percentage. 72, oh my God. 73, 74, 72, 71, 69, oh my God, 68, okay, good. When I do this, on a monthly basis, I always get a feedback. How's the thinking in my company? And I have my target. Once you do this, you don't have to care about the follow-up, because management will deal with these numbers anyhow. Yeah. You also don't have a follow-up on the annual report. I mean, revenue data, profitability, this is a natural part of your management sessions. You look at it naturally. So with pulse survey, you also don't have a follow-up. You look at the numbers on a regular basis. Why? Because they are not only interesting, but relevant. Please take home this difference. Okay. So, did you get this difference? Yeah. It's important. I wrote some of you. I can recommend that you read my blog on Harvard Business Manager. I regularly write articles there. My blog. I have also one article around this idea. You can find a lot. It's in German. Sorry, it's an easy German. Okay. There's also another source which I've indicated here. It's already a while ago. In 2005, when I described this idea, we didn't name it pulse survey. I named it strategy-focused employee surveys. The term pulse survey was still not there. Today we have this name, pulse survey. It's exactly what I have described in this article of Thorsten Hagmeister, 2005. Okay, so the last thing for today, and we are still in this chapter of work, is employer attractiveness. I mean, we spoke about working hours, we talked about work flexibility, we talked about work environment, we talked about employee survey as an instrument to constantly improve things. Yeah, and I would like to add one idea around this, because I mean, this employer attractiveness became a key topic, especially because of talent shortage. Companies think about how can we become more attractive. I mean, think about of any kind of company. Yeah, and imagine you are responsible for this company to a certain extent. And you have to think about how can we become more attractive. And you immediately feel that this is a huge thing. How can a company like Siemens become more attractive? Bah. That's the question. Companies must become attractive. Otherwise, they can hardly compete in the labor market. I would like to add one point here. I wouldn't go too deep. We have talked about different things where you can really invest. But now I'd like to share with you a kind of strategic view on this. I have two employers. Employer number A. This is not something that you learn by heart. As a key component of our employer of choice strategy, we communicate to potential employees that this is a great place to work. Yeah? We offer a positive work climate, rich career opportunities, and competitive benefit packages. We are proud that we have won a number of employer rankings, awards, and rank high in most of currently existing employer rankings. As a result, our applications are up and turnover is down across the firm. Okay? From what I see, many companies act this way. Yeah? It's a very typical strategy saying, we want to become an employer of choice. Yeah? We want to become an attractive employer. We want to win awards. And once we have won these awards, we communicate these awards. We have these logos and all these things on our job ad saying, we are an employer of choice. Question to you. If you look at a job ad, and there is this sign, this logo saying, winner of the Great Place to Work Award 2012. What does that mean for you? It's okay. No, what does it mean? Really, I ask you.
Is it best place to work? Maybe.
They say. They have won an award. So does that mean something to you?
Not really, because I don't know the criteria or. And, I mean, it's not a global award. If there were like one ranking company that would do every company in the world and do that, then it might have meaning. But
Okay.
aside from that,
Who took part in that award? Yeah, is that really global? Which criteria did they use? I mean, what's behind this? Yeah.
Yeah, that's don't feel informed well enough on the various
Yeah.
awards that are in that
Interesting. Yeah.
industry, and I mean,
Yeah.
if you just see award whatever, maybe there were only 3 companies competing for the award.
Yeah.
So what?
There were only 3 companies applying for this award, so if you look at many job ads as an active seeker, you might feel that on every job ad there is something like this. Yeah, you share this experience. Okay, this is employer B. Totally different strategy. The last thing we want to be is an employer of choice. All that does is dramatically increase the number of unqualified or marginal applicants, which increase both the probability of selection errors and cost per hire. Our strategy is to hire choice employees or to seek the marketplace by having them self-selected even before they apply. We want all applicants to understand that this is a demanding, high-performing organization. To achieve this, we try to communicate in every possible interaction that this is a place that values talent and exceptional effort. For those employees, we provide exceptional rewards and career opportunities. We cannot be everything to everyone, and we do not want to be. If you would be HR director, would you go for strategy A or strategy B?
I think it depends on the kind of company and product or service you give.
Yeah, it depends on the kind of company and the products. Do you have any idea in which?
This last one seems more like a service-oriented company, maybe a high-profile consultancy firm or high-tech, and the other one seems more like a place, because if you don't have many career opportunities or you have low income or knowledge workers, you cannot offer them to be CEOs, of course.
So you have some companies in mind when you look at the two different
I guess, yeah.
alternatives, yeah. And the second type is more this McKinsey kind of company,
So
working 80 hours a week, but it's fine, yeah.
or finance, investment bank,
Investment bank,
high-tech.
yeah. Okay. While the first type is more this traditional,
I mean, it's not bad, I just think it's different approaches.
yeah. Okay. For which approach would you go? I mean, it depends on industry, depends on company, but what else? What comes to your mind? Which one do you like the most?
I like the first one better.
Yeah.
Because it sounds nicer and it's
Sounds
not that
nicer.
aggressive. But
Yeah.
yes, you have a higher bias for the first one, for employer A. Like they said in the statement of employer B, there's a high bias and they don't want to include that. And that's understandable, but sounds better A.
The first strategy is more cozy, more positive, yeah. We want to be the best, we are the best, and we communicate that we are the best. But the second says, we don't want to be the best for everybody, yeah.
I like the second one because it sounds more efficient.
The second one sounds more efficient.
I'm more into numbers, and I mean, I don't really care what the words are. You can talk nicely about whatever and everything. The first one sounds expensive.
The first one sounds expensive, yeah, and the second one sounds more efficient, more focused.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Me personally, if I can say this, I mean, there is no wrong or right. It's not that you should learn that the one is right and the other one is wrong. I personally prefer strategy B. It's more strategic. It's more, I mean, whenever you say, I don't want to be attractive for everybody, I want to be attractive for specific groups, yeah? And I don't want to be attractive in everything, but I want to be attractive in those things that really matter. Once I think in that way, yeah, I get a more strategic view on this. And what I really see these days, and I mean, look at the traditional awards which we see. Great place to work, for instance. It's always the idea in these awards that you have to be strong in everything for everybody. Yeah? My message to companies is, you can't be strong in everything for everybody. Forget it. It's nice, it's good idea, but you will not make it because your resources are limited. So, if you can't be attractive for everybody in everything, the question is, where should you be attractive? For whom? In what? Okay? And probably you remember this picture from a context when we talked about employer branding, right? Talked about employer branding. I said, the first thing we have to consider as an employer is, what are our strengths? Then we have to look what are the preferences of our target groups. And then we have to look at what our competitors offer. And then we select those points where we are strong, points which really matter to the people we want to reach, our target group, points where the others are weak. Yeah? You might remember this idea. And I apply the same idea when it comes to employer attractiveness. We look at where can we really become better? Where can we become better? And we see, okay, we could be better in communication. We could be better in work-life balance. We could be better in our leadership capabilities. We can be better in terms of whatever. Yeah? At the end, we have a list of things where we as a company believe we could be better based on the resources which we have, based on the environment. So we cannot be better in everything, but in some things we really see a reasonable potential. And then the next question is, what really matters to our target group? I want to hire business students. So my question is, what matters to you? Is it really work-life balance? Is it really being innovative? Is it really flexible working hours? Is it really the fact that we have kindergarten? Yeah. What is it? What matters to you? And then I look at with the competitor's strength and I see that, okay, they are also strong. They are also attractive in certain areas. And it's always a good idea to select those points in this simple example, B and D, where we see, okay, with B and D, we have a potential to get better. We see a chance to get better. That would also matter to the people which we want to reach. And at the same time, our competitors in the labor market are weak, rather weak on these points. So here we have a chance really to get a competitive advantage in the labor market. Take this idea home, okay? Increasing employer attractiveness is not about becoming better in everything for everybody. That's a naive understanding which is commonly shared out there. To act strategically in this field means to really think about the own potential, about the target group, and about the competition. Okay, so having said this, we can close our first chapter of work, and here again find the key terms which we have discussed in this chapter. My expectation is that when you take this slide 2 sessions ago, that meant nothing to you, or nearly nothing. For the exam, you should be able to talk about these things. Yeah, you should have an understanding what these things are and why they are there. Okay, so take these last slides always as a kind of checklist for yourself, whether you are deep enough into a certain chapter. Okay, so thank you, and I'll see you next week.